guys, my name is Lacey. Let's speak to some fat hips. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite things in the whole wide world. Again, that's eyeshadow palettes. I'm going to be doing another mini reviews video for you guys, and I really actually like doing these. I like doing my reviews in these more condensed, multiple reviews at a time kind of videos because, like I've said in the past, sometimes my reviews aren't that, extravagant or articulated or deep. Sometimes it's really just a matter of like, look at these, my opinions are minimal, here you go. But these are actually palettes that I'm very excited about because they're not the usual palettes that I think I would reach for. Today we're going to be talking about palettes that have recently released for the summer. And like I said, I'm excited about these because there's some good and interesting color stories in this collection of palettes. And I'm excited to talk about you guys. So I'm going to start off small and work to the big palettes. If you know what I mean? I'm going to start off with a palette that I was not planning on buying, and Samantha March actually kind of convinced me that I wanted this. This is the Huda Beauty Coral Obsessions palette. I have the Rainbow Obsessions palette. I forget exactly what it's called, and I kind of just like that palette's perfectly fine and nice. None of her other Obsessions palettes have like spoken to me because they're all just kind of average and neutral. This one is really nice, and I saw it in person in Sephora, and I was like, okay, I get this, I don't want this. As the name suggests, this is mostly corals, but you do get some yellows in this palette and some like more tannish colors, and I feel like that's why I like this so much, because you do get enough variety in this that I think that it's worth purchasing. Just speaking about the formula of these shadows, they're really nice and very blendable and very pigmented. I will say, I think I might have said this before, the size of this palette is almost like shockingly small. Like they're like, I think $27 palettes. They're under $30, but really they're very tiny. That's fine for me. A tinier palette, I tend to gravitate more towards tiny palettes now. Whereas back in the day when I was first getting into makeup, it was like the bigger the palette, the better. But I like having a more condensed color story like this. And at first, like I said, it looks like you can't get a lot of variety out of this, but you definitely can. And I think if your collection is missing coral eyeshadows, because I think mine was missing coral eyeshadows, it's not anymore, and you're going to see with the rest of these reviews that it's not missing coral eyeshadows anymore. But I feel like if you're missing some coral eyeshadows, I will say, a lot of people were saying that they thought this looked like the one Colourpop palette, the Yes Please palette, I think. Let me go grab my Yes Please palette. I can definitely see not needing both of these palettes. Coral one, the Huda Beauty Coral Obsessions palette, is a little bit more actual corally than this Yes Please palette. This Yes Please palette is a little bit more red tone in my opinion. I can definitely see not justifying needing both, but I think you can even see on camera this one has more pinky corally tones to it. I don't know. Is that me justifying needing both in my collection? Maybe. I will leave it to you to decide if you have one, if you need the other. But I really like this. The quality of the Huda shadows is really, really nice actually. And I haven't been interested in her bigger palettes, the Desert Dust, the Rose Gold, especially after the drama with the Rose Gold. But I do think these little tiny Obsession palettes are cute and they're a good idea. And this is just a really summer appropriate palette. And let me do a couple swatches because the pigmentation on these is really rather impressive. You can build these up really nicely on the eyes and they just blend so smoothly. You only get 2 shimmers, and I do kind of feel like the shimmers look a little too similar to each other. Like maybe one could have been, I don't know, a little bit different. Those are both the shimmers there. I don't know. Shimmers are nice and creamy. Mattes blend very nicely. Good pigmentation. If you're like looking for a little cute, treat yourself kind of summer palette, I could recommend this for sure. Especially if you're not into a lot of the blues that have been popular, the aquas that have been popular lately. This is nice, probably for the average consumer who's afraid of some of these more like daring summer colors. Another tinier palette that unfortunately I really, just to cut to the chase, would not recommend to you guys. I could have lived without this palette. This is a Smashbox Pinks and Palms eyeshadow palette. I had talked about this in my collab with Angelica about palettes I would redesign. I had talked about how I wanted another green in this, which I still stand by, and how I had said in that video that I don't see a lot of people, I'm sorry, I'm trying to like cover the mirror while still showing this to you guys. I had said how I don't hear a lot of people talking about this, and I really it's because this isn't that great. I'm gonna be like, this is such a fun color story. This is so fun and so pretty, and there aren't that many dedicated pink palettes in the world. The problem is just the pigmentation is not that great. This green is so hard to get to show up on your eyes. Like really, I can't even swatch it. I had to wet my brush to get this to show up somewhat on my skin, and I'm the shade of paper. And these pinks, again, are also only okay. They're not that pigmented. You can definitely build them up a little bit better than this green. I don't know. The shimmers are not that revolutionary either. They're nice and fine, but I don't know. Even like, I'm not trying to make these swatches look like crap. And swatches definitely don't tell you everything about the performance of an eyeshadow, but I just feel like if you like this color story, dupe it out with singles. It's not worth buying this. This is not a great palette. It's just the pigmentation is not there. And what a shame, because I feel like this would have been the perfect, cutest little, like, you know, summer palette possible. I don't, like, the color story, I can't emphasize enough, is so unique and so pretty. But this is just not a good formula. Not for me, not for my needs. Maybe if you aren't, like, if you want a wash of pink, but I feel like what would be the point of buying a pink palette if it's not going to show up bright and vivid and amazing on your eyes? I just feel like there are better pink eyeshadows in the world, and it's a shame because I feel like the potential, like I said, for that palette existed, and it just isn't what I would want in my collection personally. I'm not even going to butcher the name of this eyeshadow palette because that would just be cruel of me. This is the new eyeshadow palette from Alamar Cosmetics, the one that everyone had been getting in their BoxyCharms. I don't have BoxyCharm, but my friend Jenna had bought this palette and then received it again in her BoxyCharm and sent me the one from her BoxyCharm, which was very kind of you, Jenna. Thank you. Everyone's been losing their minds over this palette, and I will say, Alamar being a new indie brand, them teaming up with BoxyCharm was fucking genius, because now everyone has their product and everyone's talking about it and snapping it. I will say this is a great fucking palette. Like, people are excited about this for good reason. This is such a good palette. Is the color story that revolutionary? No. In fact, I've already done a whole fucking video based on palettes with pops of blue in my collection. I'll try to put it up here. Is this the corner where my cards go? Is it this corner? I don't know. Up in the cards somewhere. So I've already have this color story quite a few times over in my collection. However, this is a great formula. These mattes are very nice and pigmented. I have no trouble at all blending these shadows out or getting the pigmentation I want. Whereas I was just talking about how the Smashbox palette is super fucking disappointing pigmentation. This is the brutal opposite of that. These are very pigmented shadows, and I love using these so much. They are such beautiful colors. This was such a good color selection. You get 4 mattes and 4 shimmers, and these shimmers are so buttery and so foiled and so nice. I am so impressed. Holy shit. Like, I am so impressed with this palette. Because this was sent to me, I'm not sure about the price. I feel like for 8 shadows, I think it's like $30 to $40 range. I'll definitely put all the information on it down below. I can see how people were like, that's a little pricey for 8 eyeshadows, but the quality of these is really, really nice. And I think if you're missing a warm with a pop of blue palette in your collection, which I don't know how you could be at this point because it's been so, like, it's been done a million times. No, I just stained my palette. Do you see that? I just got a stain on it. I feel like, you know, if you don't have anything like this, and if you want to hop on this trend for summer right now, I have eyeshadow all over me. This is definitely a great palette to get because it's going to work for a lot of skin tones. These are very pigmented shadows. It's going to look very pretty on, I think, a wide range of people. And it's just, it's fun for summer. I think all of these work beautifully with all of these mattes. It's a good, I like that it's half and half. There's not too many mattes, there's not too many shimmers. Like, I think this is definitely a good first release for an indie brand, and this is the volume 1 palette, so I'm interested to see whatever the volume 2 is. But yeah, really nice. Like I said, putting this in a BoxyCharm was really fucking smart because now everyone has access to the brand and everyone's going to be talking about it. Smart, smart, smart. And I love to see indie brands getting that kind of exposure. I really do. Who girl. This next one was one that I'm so excited for, and I was so excited for, and I talked about how I wanted this palette, and I finally got my hands on it. This is the Give Me Glow Summer Vibes palette, and this is summer eyeshadow perfection. If this doesn't scream summer to you, I don't know what will. You get your blues, you get your corals, you get your yellows, you get enough browns that you could, you know, do what you need to do to make this wearable. Wearable. You know, that word I hate, wearable. You get enough browns to do what you need to do if maybe you're not that comfortable with colorful shadows. This is so fucking good. I've talked about Give Me Glow's formula a bunch now on this channel, and I'm going to keep talking about it because this is such a good formula. This is such a pigmented, beautiful, amazing formula. Wait until you see these swatches. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. It's like stupid how pigmented these are. I mean, come on now. Like, I can't, this speaks for itself. These are such pigmented eyeshadows. The thing about Give Me Glow, their eyeshadows are kind of on the pricier side, especially these bigger palettes, and you're getting gigantic pans, and I think that's what freaks a lot of people out because you don't need this much eyeshadow. I don't need this much eyeshadow, you don't need this much eyeshadow. I think especially for this being like a summer colorful palette, you're never gonna hit pan on these. You're never gonna hit pan on these, like, ever. I will say the thing, I said in my things I would change palette that I kind of wanted to kick one of these browns out for like a yellow metallic. I stand by that completely. I also feel like you're getting two metallic browns that look different in the pans, but on the eyes they're really not that different. I definitely would kick out one of these metallic browns for a different color, and also these two matte browns look so similar on the eyes, I don't think you need both. So I would probably, I stand by that. I wish there was a shimmery yellow to go with this matte yellow. But these are such pretty eyeshadows. So would I recommend them? I mean, the pigment speaks for itself. If you don't mind paying the price for these, I would recommend these. Also, if the pan size doesn't freak you out, I would recommend these. I do think Give Me Glow doesn't need to make pans this big for eyeshadow. I think, like I said earlier with the Huda Beauty palette, getting gigantic eyeshadow pans used to like make me all excited back in the day, but now it's just like a waste and I'm never gonna hit pan on these. Especially colors like this. This might not be everyone's like everyday palette. If pans this size make sense, if this is a go-to everyday palette, I don't think that's what this is. Maybe if you're using this one palette all summer long, it could be worth it to you. I'm going to say take the review for this with a grain of salt, because while I think the pigmentation speaks for itself and this is so beautiful and so amazing, and just like the second I saw this palette I was like, I need to have that. I can see not needing it because of the price and the size of the eyeshadow pans. And the repetitiveness of these like browns up here. I will say though, Give Me Glow was doing like make your own quads for like a much more affordable price. If they do that again, fuck around with some of these colors, because like this orange, this coral, this yellow, this blue, amazing, absolutely amazing. I love their formula so much. I really do. Like, one of the best indie formulas I've ever tried in my life. But you just don't need this much eyeshadow. And if I didn't have so many eyeshadows, I'm just repeating myself at this point. If the pan size doesn't freak you out, absolutely 100%. I love these. They blend so nicely. They're so pigmented. Go for it. If this much pigment freaks you out though, maybe stay away. Because if you feel like I'm never going to make this work, it's just too much for me, I don't know. Take it, you know, what I like in an eyeshadow might not be what you like in an eyeshadow. I like my eyeshadows to be pigmented as all hell. If you're not about that life, if you're like, I would rather build up color and get to the pigmentation levels that I want, I can see this not working for you. If you're like me and this just tickles you in your happy spot, definitely highly recommend / love that palette so much. I'm so happy I finally got it. It took 3 releases of it for me to finally get my hands on it, and it's always sold out, and for good reason, because it's a beautiful palette and just perfect for summer. Oh my gosh. If the pan size of Give Me Glow freaked you out, if the pigmentation of Give Me Glow freaked you out, but you liked that color story, might I recommend you the Flamingo palette from Violet Voss. This is the last palette that I want to review in this video, and this is another palette that when it came out, when they showed the previews for it, people lost their damn minds over this color story, because this is a beautiful well done color story. Also, Violet Voss does not do colorful shadows. They do 100 Shade of Brown palettes. And for them to release something like this, I was so excited because I love Violet Voss's formula. And like I said, this color story is so unique and it just screams summer. To me, this screams popsicles and beach blankets and like suntan lotion and beach balls and all flip-flops. Like, this screams summer to me so much. And I think so many people are excited for this palette for such good reason, because it's like, color story wise, it's perfect. If a color story like this freaks you out, because I had a couple people on my Instagram being like, I don't know what to do with this. I feel like this palette was laid out very well in that if you look at these shadows like quads, it kind of shows you what you could do with it. So let's say this is a quad down here, this is a quad down here, this is a quad. Like, it really, the arrangement of these colors is done very purposefully for me, because I feel like any given eyeshadow, all of the colors around it are going to complement it very well. Performance wise, pigmentation wise, there are a lot of eyeshadows in the world that I don't need to have an eyeshadow base for, like an eyeshadow primer. Like, for instance, the Gimme Glow ones, I would feel 100% comfortable not putting down a primer to use those and just maybe using concealers and calling it a day. I have found that I do definitely need to have an eyeshadow primer with these. And that is because these shades right here on the bottom aren't that pigmented. They're very pastel. They can be built up to be more pigmented, but a little disappointed in like I said, just these three. The rest of the colors, however, the rest of these mattes are very nice, and exactly what I would expect from a Violet Voss palette in a good way is that they're not like mind-blowingly crazy pigmentation. Like, these aren't going to replace your Sugar Pill or your Viseart shadows, but they're really good for Violet Voss, and you can get them at Sephora. You can get this palette at Sephora now, which I think is great. The thing I love about Violet Voss, is definitely their metallic eyeshadows, because, and I've said this before, they make some of the best foiled eyeshadows on the planet, and they remind me actually a lot of Natasha Denona metallic eyeshadows, because they put, I think, they put jojoba oil in their eyeshadows, and you get a very foiled metallic eyeshadow. Their mattes aren't as impressive as the foils to me, but still really good. The one thing I will say, I have a couple complaints beyond just these three coming off more pastel than I would like. This Flamingo shade, this Coral shade, this Watermelon shade, you don't need all three of these in the palette, Violet Voss. I really wish that one of those could have been kicked out for a different color. Maybe like a purple to go with this purple. But, you know, not bad. Also, this black makes no sense to me. It really doesn't. And I really, it's a sad day when I'm like, you know what a palette needs? Another brown. But I really think if they would have kicked out this black for just a deep brown, this palette would be flawless and would be perfect. Because I find myself with this black, like, so carefully dipping into the black and then so carefully dipping into another color to get like a deep crease shade, because there isn't a lot of deep crease shades to me in this palette. It's a lot of just standalone colors, and they don't really have counterparts to them, which I guess is why the black is here. So you could dip into the black and then any of these colors and just deepen it up a little. But I think with that, like, this is too summery for that. Like, if you're like a gothic creature like myself and you want to look grungy and ridiculous even in the summer, it makes sense, but I just feel like there's too many black eyeshadows in the world, and it doesn't make sense with this palette. I think this definitely could have just been a dark brown, and we all could have called it a day, and it would have been great. But while this isn't the craziest, most pigmented eyeshadow palette in the world, I think that's what makes it so accessible for a lot of people, because I think so many people were excited for this release because it's Violet Voss. They have a pretty, like, consistently good reputation. They are a little bit on the pricier side for maybe their quality. I said it before, I wish all of their eyeshadow palettes were about $10 cheaper than what they actually are, but perfectly good quality, now very available because they're at Sephora. And I think because these aren't the most pigmented, but they can be built up to be pigmented, it's going to work for a lot of people. It's going to work for people who are afraid of color. It's going to work for people who maybe don't have that many colorful eyeshadows and want to add something like this to their collection. And like I said before, this is such a good color story. This is a great color story. It makes sense to me. It works. The point of the theme is across. I love this packaging. This might be my favorite, like, overall Violet Voss palette that I've ever gotten my hands on. And I really love Violet Voss shadows, but I think this, like, they nailed it. I didn't get the face palette, but I had to get the eyeshadow palette. And I've used every single color in this palette. That's why my reviews always take so long, because I always want to make sure I've used every single color in a palette before I talk about a palette. I've used every single one of these colors. I've been doing a lot of really crazy looks to work lately because I was trying to get every single one of these colors under my belt before I sat down to film this. But like, I have like this huge smile on my face talking about this palette because it's just so nice and it's so good and it's so refreshing to not see 50 Shades of Brown from Violet Voss. And for the summer, I just feel like you can't go wrong. This is really, really good. I would recommend this. And if you get it from Sephora, you can always return it. If there's a problem, it's just good job, Violet Voss. Good job. And like I said, if you don't know what you could do with a palette like this, stick to the colors around it and you will be fine. But like even the palette cover is so fucking cute. I love this. I love this so much. And with that, we've wrapped up yet another round of mini reviews. Whew, I'm exhausted. This is like, I filmed so many videos today and I'm exhausted. Are you particularly excited about any one of these palettes specifically? Let me know down below. What do you think of this trend of like corals and blues and yellows? I think it's very appropriate for summer. I think it's so much better than the whole like warm neutrals with a pop of blue thing. No offense to those in this little palette series that I've talked about with that color scheme before, but I just feel like warm neutrals are overdone and we all know it. So to see brands being like summer colors, we'll fucking show you summer colors. That's really nice and I'm excited about it. And I'm excited to see this trend of like really, really summery colors continue because I just think it's been fun and I think people are ready for it and excited and interested in a change. Down to the brown eyeshadows. Death to brown eyeshadows. Even though I wanted a brown eyeshadow on that Violet Voss palette. It's getting late and I'm starting to get loopy. Let me know if you've picked up any of these palettes, what you think about them, which palettes you're the most excited for down below. If you like this video, if you like me, if you like eyeshadow palettes, because I talk a lot about eyeshadow palettes on this channel, hit like and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram so you can see me talking about makeup when I'm not on YouTube. Chat with me down below. And I'm officially exhausted, so I'm going to end this video now. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye guys!